320,000 jobs vanished overnight. Production lines being dismantled piece by piece. Workers climbing to rooftops threatening to jump if they're not paid. This isn't a Hollywood movie. This is happening in China right now. And the worst part? This is just the beginning. Welcome to China Undercover, where we reveal the hidden truths behind the bamboo curtain of the world's second-largest economy. Today, we're diving into a crisis unfolding silently, but at a terrifying pace. China's economic collapse that's changing the fate of millions. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Now, let's get into the story. In early November, from Shanghai to Guangdong, from Jiangxi to Hunan, a wave of protests and labor unrest swept across the country. Workers filed lawsuits, staged strikes, demanded unpaid wages, and blocked entrances to residential areas. At the same time, major players in China's economy, including foreign corporations that had long been pillars of the export sector, rushed to relocate production lines, close factories, or move operations to India and Vietnam. These seemingly disconnected events painted a single picture. China's economy was undergoing a silent but accelerating collapse, bringing widespread unemployment, foreclosures, bankruptcies, and an unprecedented sense of despair in the post-reform era. In Shanghai, the couple Feng Yaoliang and Li Shuimei, residents of Jiangyang Village in Gaojing Town, Baoshan District, have endured over 20 years of forced evictions. Their home was demolished, leaving the family homeless, and repeated appeals to the authorities went unheard. They filed lawsuits at 2 court levels, only to face rulings they considered unlawful. On November 11th, they shared their story online, recounting years of oppression as a silent cry for help in China's largest city, exposing the hidden human cost behind rapid urban development. The unrest was not limited to individuals facing forced eviction. In Guangdong, dozens of ceramic factory workers gathered outside the municipal government on November 10th to demand months of unpaid wages. The authorities did not resolve the issue. Instead, police were dispatched to block the workers and disperse the crowd. In Jiangxi, residents of the Wujing Lone Residential District in Lianhua County protested when management suddenly raised parking fees illegally. On November 10th, numerous car owners blocked entrances to the community, causing traffic around the area to grind to a halt. The conflict only eased when local leaders arrived to negotiate. Meanwhile, at China railway facilities, many farmers turned workers, frustrated by unpaid wages, climbed to the top floors of company buildings and threatened to jump if their demands were not met. Incidents of workers risking their lives to protest have surged over the past 2 years, reflecting the depth of frustration and despair. The shockwaves reached the upper echelons of the labor force as well. Foxconn, once the emblem of industrial success in China, now showed signs of decline. Commercial areas surrounding Foxconn factories grew desolate, and rumors spread that production lines were being dismantled and multiple Shenzhen factories prepared for closure. In central China, the Hongfujin Precision Factory in Hengyang, Hunan, a Foxconn subsidiary employing 30,000 workers and producing goods worth 20 billion RMB annually, officially closed on September 30th due to a lack of orders. This closure symbolized both a strategic contraction in central China and the broader retreat of foreign investment. The trend was not confined to Hunan. Factories from Nanning and Dongguan to Kunshan and Dongguan saw hiring freezes, layoffs of older employees, and entire production lines once overloaded with workers now stood silent and abandoned. The withdrawal of foreign capital had visible and devastating consequences. And here's the shocking number that captures the scale of this crisis. When Foxconn left Zhengzhou last year, it took 320,000 jobs with it. Let that sink in. 320,000 people suddenly without work. The city's exports, previously dependent on Foxconn for 80% of their volume, dropped 60% in the first quarter of 2024, while Hunan province, lost 40% of its total export value. Once known as iPhone City, Zhengzhou became a hub of unemployment. Commercial districts surrounding Foxconn shrank, with more than half of businesses closed and foot traffic declining sharply. Former assembly line workers who once assembled iPhones were forced to turn to delivery jobs to survive, just to put food on the table. Paradoxically, even as many factories closed, thousands of workers still queued for recruitment at the few remaining operational Foxconn facilities. A worker explained the grim reality. Except for Foxconn, 90% of factories are garbage. They cheat wages, force resignations, and exploit workers. There is nothing else. This statement reveals the desperate state of China's manufacturing sector, when even a closing factory is still considered the best option available. Production lines were being dismantled and relocated in stages, moving from Nanning to Hunan and then to Wuhan. A blogger at Foxconn Wuhan's CAA division documented entire lines being packed and shipped to Zhengzhou. He said, "The whole section will be gone in a month," and added with palpable desperation, "I have worked here for 5 years, suddenly unemployed. I don't know where my future will go." The reason for these closures is more than just a lack of orders. Global supply chain restructuring, with India and Vietnam offering tax incentives, lower labor costs, and more stable policies, coupled with US-China trade tensions and pressure from clients like Apple, made China a less secure choice for multinational corporations. The legal risks and unclear regulations in China are driving companies away at an accelerating pace. And if you think this is just a factory worker problem, affecting only blue-collar workers, listen to this story that proves the crisis reaches far beyond manufacturing floors. A blogger who worked 8 years at Microsoft China recounted being laid off during a Teams meeting with hundreds of people. Think about that. 8 years of dedicated service ended in a mass video call. An AI voice read the notice. "Your position has been terminated, not due to performance, due to strategic adjustments." The cold, impersonal delivery made it even more brutal. Many departments were cut by 50 to 75%, with some eliminated entirely. Microsoft has not hired in China for 2 years, moving positions to Japan and Australia instead. Across sectors, from manufacturing to tech, employees face the same stark reality. Long-term stability has vanished, replaced by sudden dismissals and uncertainty about the future. The financial strain is not confined to factories and corporate offices. Across China, ordinary citizens are feeling the pressure as housing crises and wage disputes escalate. In multiple cities, residents are protesting sudden fee increases, arbitrary evictions, and long-standing mismanagement in urban housing complexes. In Jiangxi, at the Wujing Lone Residential District, anger erupted when management imposed illegal parking fees without warning. On November 10th, furious residents parked their cars to block entrances, effectively paralyzing the neighborhood. Traffic ground to a halt for hours until local officials arrived to mediate. These incidents, once rare, are becoming routine in many urban areas, signaling growing unrest among citizens who feel abandoned by the system. Meanwhile, across the manufacturing hubs of Zhejiang, Guangdong, and Hunan, workers' protests are escalating in frequency and intensity. In Kaozhou, dozens of ceramic factory employees staged a demonstration outside the municipal government demanding months of unpaid wages. Instead of resolving the dispute, authorities sent police to push the workers aside, attempting to disperse the crowd. In other areas, such as at China railway facilities, unpaid workers climbed building rooftops and threatened to jump if their wages were not paid. Over the past 2 years, incidents of life-threatening protest have increased significantly, reflecting the desperation of a workforce facing broken promises and economic insecurity. The retreat of foreign capital is having catastrophic ripple effects throughout society. At the heart of this industrial upheaval is Foxconn, once considered the crown jewel of China's manufacturing sector. The company, which had been emblematic of stability and opportunity for millions, now resembles a ghost town. Shops and commercial areas surrounding its factories have closed one by one, and rumors abound that Foxconn is dismantling production lines and closing multiple facilities in Shenzhen. The situation is no less dire in central China. The closure in Hengyang not only signals strategic downsizing in central China, but also embodies the wider exodus of foreign investment from the region. Yet even as factories close, paradoxical scenes emerge. Thousands of workers still line up for employment at operational Foxconn facilities, drawn by the scarcity of legitimate opportunities. In the words of one disillusioned worker we heard earlier, except for Foxconn, 90% of factories are garbage. They either cheat wages or force people out. The dismantling and relocation of production lines are proceeding in phases. The causes extend beyond mere lack of orders. Global supply chain restructuring, driven by tax incentives in India and Vietnam, lower labor costs, and more stable policy environments, is forcing multinational corporations to relocate. The US-China trade war and pressure from major clients like Apple accelerate this exodus, while unclear regulations and high legal risks in China make it increasingly unsafe for foreign companies to stay. Evictions, often abrupt and forceful, are leaving families without shelter and sparking public outrage. In Shanghai, families like that of Feng Yaoliang and Li Shuimei have endured over 2 decades of displacement, their homes demolished repeatedly despite legal complaints and court appeals. Online accounts of such oppression are met with silence, revealing a society in which millions suffer quietly, trapped between a collapsing economy and a government unwilling or unable to protect them. The housing sector mirrors these struggles throughout the nation. The growing combination of corporate retreat, rising unemployment, and housing instability paints a portrait of a country in crisis, where everyday survival has become a struggle for millions of citizens once considered part of China's rising middle class. What we're witnessing is not just an economic downturn, it's a fundamental restructuring of China's place in the global economy. The world's factory is losing its status, and the human cost is staggering. Workers who spent decades building China's economic miracle are now left without jobs, without savings, and without hope. The most worrying part? This is only what we can see. The real numbers could be far worse, hidden behind official statistics and strict censorship. The protests we're seeing, the factory closures, the desperate workers, these are just the visible symptoms of a much deeper crisis. And that's what's really happening in China right now. A silent but profound crisis changing the fate of millions of people who once believed they were part of an unstoppable economic rise. If this video brought you value and opened your eyes to what's really happening, hit that like button and share it so more people can see the truth behind the headlines. Subscribe to China Undercover for more in-depth investigations like this. Now, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this crisis? Do you think it will impact your country and region? And what topic should we investigate next? The global supply chain impacts, opportunities for Southeast Asia, the future of tech companies in China, or the deeper social and political issues? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching China Undercover. See you in the next video where we'll continue pulling back the curtain on what's really happening behind the bamboo curtain. Stay informed, stay critical, stay curious.